Okay.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Merit Scholarship Deep Dive online training. I'm hoping you can hear me.
Mhm.
If you can't, please let me know. You can find a chat box. I'm going to open mine right now. It's in the little ribbon that shows up on my screen. It shows up on the top. I know sometimes it shows up on the bottom. So we will use that chat box to communicate tonight. And I will be checking it periodically to make sure that I am able to address your questions. So hopefully you can see me in a little corner on your screen, and hopefully you can see my presentation on the screen, and hopefully you can also hear me well. So please let me know in the chat box if you have any issues at all as we go through. So thank you so much for taking the time to join me tonight. I hope that you were able to attend our Merit Scholarship Deep Dive 5-day challenge. That was fun, a different step in the Merit Scholarship framework each day, and we did Facebook Lives, and I thought it was really a fun experience, and had to deal with a few technical glitches now and then, unfortunately, but that seems to always be the case. So let's get started. Just admitting some more people here. All right, let's get started. So first, a little bit about me. My name is Wendy Nelson, and I run My Kids College Choice and MeritScholarshipList.com. Hopefully you have seen one or both of my sites before, but that would be a good introduction for you. All right, so a little bit more about me. I did successfully help all 3 of our girls through the college search process, and we'll talk a little bit more about those experiences as we go along. By trade, I'm an IT manager with background in business analysis and project management. And really what that means is that I like to analyze and organize everything. So those are awesome things when it comes to the college search process. And I really dug in with my oldest daughter. She's the one on the left. She's actually the shortest, but you can't really tell that in this picture. She would not be happy that I pointed that out. So for her, I spent lots of time finding potential colleges and scholarships, and found that I was really interested in the topic, and especially in organizing data around the topic. But I also like to write. So back in 2012, I started a blog about my experience with her with the college search process. And that's really when I started the MyKidsCollegeChoice.com website. And like I said, I like to organize data. I was really interested in finding good scholarships for her. I kind of stumbled upon some lists online of full ride and full tuition merit scholarships offered by colleges. And I was frustrated because these lists that you can find are not very complete. They're not very up to date. And really, they were just listed out, you know, like line by line. And I was seeing spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet. So great opportunity to put together a spreadsheet. And I built it from there into a pretty comprehensive list of all the full ride and full tuition merit-based scholarships from colleges around the country. It's called the Full Scholarship List, and it's available on the MyKidsCollegeChoice.com website. And I do a complete update of that twice a year, just finishing off the summertime update on that right now. Then I decided, you know what, full ride and full tuition merit scholarships are great, but there are so many other great scholarships out there, and such a small number of students are going to qualify for full ride and full tuition. So I wanted to list them all. That was my dream, list out all the merit scholarships offered by all the colleges around the country. Ended up being a much larger project than I ever anticipated, but I did create the MeritScholarshipList.com site, and that's the database of all those merit scholarships. So I capped it at $2,000 and up. So it only includes merit scholarships in amounts of $2,000 and higher, but it is really a database of all of those merit scholarships around all the colleges, or I mean across all the colleges in the United States. And that one is also a major undertaking to update. And we will take a look at that a little later just so you can see what that site looks like. So when it came to searching for colleges, I would say we're pretty typical in my family. My husband and I panicked over our expected family contribution. We realized way too late how much college actually costs. And then I started looking for options to make it more affordable with my oldest daughter. Also struggling to balance the desire for her to go to a great school because she was a top student against the need to have an affordable college. So I think that's a pretty big dilemma that most families are faced with, especially families who know that their student needs to be challenged in college. So we'll look at some things related to that as well. But Merit Aid definitely worked for us in my family. And I think, you know, it's a compromise. So with my oldest daughter, we could have sent her somewhere that had full tuition, a full tuition scholarship for her, but we were balancing everything. She liked the idea of an honors college. She liked a certain size of school and, you know, not being too far from home. So she was able to get a half tuition merit scholarship to a top 5 regional university that had a great honors college. And really the honors college was part of what made that experience a good one for her. Before she got to college, she had $5,000 in local private scholarships. And I mean ones that were just offered to students. I think all of the ones she won were only for our high school. So much better chance of winning those. And we'll talk about those local scholarships later. During college, she won another $5,500 in local private scholarships. Additionally, she went right into a master's program at a different school, and she was able to go there on a full tuition scholarship for both of the years of the master's program with a full cost of living stipend to be a graduate assistant while she was in that program. And so 100% paid for grad school. So that was awesome. We were very excited for her. And now she's out and looking for a job. So fun. That's, of course, a lot of fun. Our middle daughter attended our very highly regarded flagship state school. She was able to graduate in 3 years instead of 4. So she saved us a whole year of tuition and living expenses, which we were very happy about. She also was able to take advantage of private scholarships. Given that this is our state flagship, there weren't a whole lot of merit scholarship opportunities offered at the school, but at least we were paying in-state tuition. So to us, it seemed like a pretty reasonable deal, especially when she finished a year early. So $7,000 in local private scholarships going into college. That paid for almost half of her yearly tuition, and then another $1,500 while she was in for her sophomore year. Our youngest daughter was really the one who got into the full ride territory. So she is a Division I volleyball recruit who just started this fall, and she has a full ride plus as a volleyball recruit. So we're very excited about that, about both the full ride and the opportunity to play some great volleyball and for us to watch. Okay, so that is enough about me. What we will cover here tonight are the merit scholarship basics, just a bunch of different things, and I'm happy to answer any other questions you have about merit scholarships. We will go through the 5-step merit scholarship framework that if you were part of the deep dive 5-day challenge, you've already been exposed to, and we will talk about resources and tools to help you. So I mentioned it in my emails. I'm a firm believer that you don't need an expensive and time-consuming online course to get through this process successfully. There are a lot of people out there pitching online courses courses right now. It's getting crazy. So online courses in all industries are like the thing to sell online. And so I have seen so many pop up related to college search. And I just don't think it's necessary in most cases to spend that money and take all that time to walk through module by module. For some people, it may be what they need to get through the process, but most parents with some good direction and some good tools can get through it just fine on their own. All right, so let's talk about what merit scholarships are. Merit scholarships are scholarships based only on a student's merit, not on financial need at all. So colleges often offer these as tuition discounts, so especially true for private colleges, knowing that they are very expensive. They are offering these scholarships to discount their tuition down to a level that would be pretty close to your in-state schools. And that's really their goal. But it's really only colleges that need to offer those tuition discounts that are doing them. You know, there is a listing of schools somewhere in the 50 school range that don't offer any merit scholarships at all. In fact, if you're in my Merit Scholarship Deep Dive Facebook group, you have access to the file that includes those schools on or in the group. It's attached in there. Colleges themselves are the biggest source of scholarship money, and also important to keep in mind that merit can be, I'm missing a word, sorry, can be related to more than just test scores and GPA. It can also apply to leadership, service, character, talent, etc. We will talk more about that in a little bit. Sources of merit scholarships, really three big ones. States, private sources, including any kind of foundations, businesses, clubs, or other organizations, and colleges. The largest source of merit-based aid by far would be the colleges themselves. This is also often called institutional merit aid. Not a very pretty sounding word, but institutional merit aid means merit aid from the colleges themselves. So some things to know about institutional merit scholarships. They vary widely in amounts. They could range from a few $100s up to a full ride plus. And by plus, I mean tuition, room and board, maybe a laptop, computer thrown in, maybe some study abroad money, some stipends for research, things like that. Anything on top of those basic college costs. Institutional merit scholarships can be for 1 year only, or they may be renewable. And if they are renewable, they may require a minimum GPA to renew them. Most do. Make sure your student knows the renewal requirements on their scholarship. We had a little momentary panic with my oldest daughter and her half tuition scholarship after her first semester in college, because she took a class. It was something related to logic or it was fulfilling one of those basic requirement categories that the school had, and she didn't do so well. It was a really hard topic for her, and it never really clicked well. She struggled, and it brought down her GPA first semester, and we had that momentary panic of, oh, did your scholarship have a renewal requirement? Luckily it didn't, so we were fine, and her GPA didn't go that far down. It was still above a 3.0, but it took her several semesters to get it back up near to a 4.0 because of that one class. So make sure they know what is required to renew their scholarship. These institutional merit scholarships may be automatic or they may be competitive. We'll talk a little more about those categories in a bit. As I mentioned before, often used as a tuition discount. And if there is a stated amount per year, that amount does not increase as tuition increases. So if you're getting a scholarship that's called a half tuition scholarship, that's going to be half tuition each year. If you're getting a $20,000 scholarship, that's $20,000 each year, even if the cost of the school is going up by an average of 5% each year. So just another thing to keep in mind. All right, so 4 types of merit scholarships. This is the way I categorize them. They are automatic, competitive, talent-based scholarships, and national merit or Hispanic recognition scholarships. And just a reminder, if you have any questions as we go along, please go ahead and type them in the chat box. I'll keep an eye on the chat box and answer those. So how do you find institutional merit aid? Well, you can go to the college websites. You can go one by one and find those. We talked about that in it was day 3 of the 5-day challenge, that basically you want to look for the scholarship page, which is usually accessible through the admissions portion of the school's website or the financial aid portion. You can go find lists of merit aid on college-related sites. There are some out there. Is there a site that lists all the institutional merit aid in one place? Yes, there is. It's my merit scholarship list site, and we'll talk a little more about that later so you can see what that looks like. So let's get into the merit scholarship framework. Here is the, oh, I'm missing a step. Here we go. Here's the 5-step framework. This is what we walked through each day of the 5-day challenge. You want to make sure you know your financial profile first, then determine your student's merit aid profile. You want to find good fit colleges, then good fit scholarships, and finally supplement with private scholarships. So we're going to walk through all of those steps here, starting with knowing your financial profile. So question for you, and you can type your answer in the chat box if you found the chat box and if you're not too shy. Have you run the FAFSA forecaster? So I know we have a lot of parents of seniors who are on the training. I would hope that by this point going into senior year, you have run a FAFSA forecaster to see what your estimated expected family contribution is. If your student is younger, you may not have done this yet, but I would say the sooner the better, because you really want to get a good feel for what you're looking at. All right, Tracy. Hi, Tracy. Yes, and all colleges interested. You did the net price calculator. Awesome. You get bonus points, Tracy. All right, so anyone else? Anyone else want to tell me? I know depending on what device you're on, it may or may not be easy to type in the chat box, but I'll keep an eye on it here. So FAFSA forecaster is really in no. We have a no from Heather. Okay, we'll talk about it, and hopefully either tonight or tomorrow or sometime soon you can go take a look at this. JP. Yeah, I would say JP with your AGI in that category, you should do it just to see what kind of number you come up with, because you're going to use that number when you go try out net price calculators. But from experience, I would tell you you're not going to qualify for any. We will go through a process on how you can take a look at whether you should qualify for any need-based aid at any school. But and you may want to do that. I would do it just out of curiosity. So stay tuned for that. We'll cover that in just a little bit. All right. Early estimate of what the government thinks you can afford for college. So you probably won't agree, but this is what the government thinks. And it does play into most colleges' estimation of what you can pay as well. So you want to run the FAFSA forecaster. You can Google FAFSA with the number 4 caster, just like I have it on the screen, and it will be easy to get to the page where you can enter the info. They don't ask for much info, so it's pretty quick and easy. And then at the end, you want to look for your expected family contribution number. It's usually hard to find because expected family contribution is written really small, but it's a number, usually about a 5-digit number, and not with a dollar sign in front either. They don't bother putting that there, but you'll know when you see it. Carrie, will this be available as a recording? Yes, if you signed up, which you did, or you wouldn't be here, you will receive the recording. Kathy, have completed the FAFSA for the past 2 years for the older child who's a sophomore, did not qualify for anything. Yeah, so Kathy, if you're gonna have two, we'll get to this on, I think, a couple slides from now, but if you have two in college at the same time, you might want to check it out because you might qualify for something a little bit, maybe for each kid. This number that you get off the FAFSA forecaster can feed directly into some net price calculators to save you a lot of time when you're trying those out. All right, let's move to the next slide. So a couple major drivers of how much your EFC will be. One is parent income. So colleges expect parents to contribute up to 47% of your net income per year. That's ridiculous. Who has 47% of their net income to put toward college? However, that doesn't mean everybody has to contribute that much. It's just an up to number. So it really depends on some of your other financial characteristics. One of those being the number of kids in college at the same time. So when you have two in college at the same time, your EFC for each child should be about half. So if it was 40 for having one in college, it might go down to 20 for each kid, in which case you should qualify for at least a little bit of need-based aid, depending on how expensive their colleges are. And if they're going to different places, those two colleges could look really different in what they offer. It only applies to the years in which you have more than one undergrad at the same time, and make sure you look at all 4 years. So I would estimate out what each kid's 4 years looks like, and you could just run early estimates through net price calculators at those schools to see if you will potentially qualify for any aid. So let's talk more about net price calculators. This is a way to get an early estimate of what a college will cost you. So all colleges are supposed to have a net price calculator on their website. I found the best way to find those is just to use their little search field at the top of their page usually, and type in net price calculator and see what you get. There have been a few times where I had to go to Google because I was just not coming up with one on the website. So I've gone to Google and said like University of Arizona net price calculator, and I can get it that way. But most of them are fairly easy to find. Many of the net price calculators allow you to plug in your EFC instead of entering all the fields. So that number you got off of FAFSA Forecaster, you can take that and plug that in directly on the calculator to save from having to enter a whole bunch of income-related fields. All right, and we'll talk about my process in just a second. Carrie, my husband started a new job in February with a significant increase. Okay, yeah, because colleges really don't have a fixed 4-year figure based on freshman year, unless it's like I can tell you our state flagship, University of Illinois, they freeze the tuition based on the first year, the student's first year, but that doesn't mean that if you were to be filing FAFSA each year that they would freeze that. They're going to look at the FAFSA new every year. So yeah, that's unfortunate. It used to be when they used to do the FAFSA based off of not the tax year that was just finished, but the prior they used to call it the prior year, then you had that benefit of at least going back further in time. So your potentially the freshman year would be based on a lower income than what you had currently. So that was a little bit helpful, but they don't do that anymore, which overall it's a good thing that they don't, but in your case, yeah, that's not going to be a benefit. So let me talk a little bit about my net price calculator process. This is how I recommend you find out if any colleges will offer need-based aid to your family. First, start with your state flagship school, run the net price calculator there, see what it says. Go to an out-of-state state school, run their net price calculator, because that school should be more expensive. Now, you could try one where your state has a reciprocity agreement and it's discounted out-of-state tuition, and then you could try one that is not discounted out-of-state, that's full out-of-state tuition. Either way, you're just really trying to ease your way up to see, as you get more and more expensive, are you getting any need-based aid? So then go to a regional private college and run the net price calculator. The final step that is sort of like, if you don't qualify here, you're not going to qualify at all, is to run the net price calculators on top tier colleges. The schools that usually say that they will meet 100% of your students' expected need. So a site that I like to use for this is called myintuition.org. It's just like the word intuition, myintuition.org. Try that. It's got, I think last time I looked, it was about 50 of the top colleges, and you can run net price calculators on all of them. They display the results nicely to kind of give you ranges of, you know, you're probably going to fall in this range, you might get lucky and fall in this range and get a little bit of aid, but if you don't qualify for aid at any of those schools, there's probably no hope for need-based aid. So I always say check just to make sure, because there are other things, you know, besides your adjusted gross income that go into those calculations. Assets and how much cash you have around, what your house cost, numerous different things. All right, so let's move to step 2. And if anyone has any other questions on step 1, go ahead and type those in the chat box and I'll go back and cover those. Step 2 is to determine your student's merit aid profile. So how will you know if your student will qualify for merit aid? Well, you want to look at many different things, starting with GPA and test scores. When it comes to high school GPA, a 3.0 and above is good, but a 3.5 or higher is better when it comes to merit aid. With ACT and SAT score, you want to be above the school's mid 50% range to have the best chance for merit aid. And we'll go into that, we'll dive into that a little deeper as we go along. Other things that could qualify for merit aid talents. The big 4 are dance, music, art, and theater. But there are some other ones out there, like creative writing, forensics. Those are probably the next 2. Leadership experience. So sometimes just straight up leadership scholarships, and there are also some competitive scholarship programs that take leadership into account. Other things that may be taken into account are community service, ethnicity, religion, race, geographic location. Could be scholarships limited to a state, a county, a city, even a specific high school. Legacy status. So if it's just a legacy scholarship, that's not really a merit scholarship, but there are merit scholarships where your student needs to be a legacy in order to be considered. So this is my little grid, really meant to show how important are these things, or how popular are these things when it comes to merit scholarships. The bigger the circle, the more often that comes into play for merit scholarships. All right, test scores and GPA. We talked about this already, but this is just a graphic that if your student falls at the top or above the mid 50% range, then they will qualify for more merit scholarships at a school. They have a higher chance of getting I guess I would say, higher chance of getting a bigger merit scholarship. So often, if you're in this range here, you're going to qualify for some merit money because most schools, especially the privates, are offering some merit money to discount their tuition to pretty much all students who are admitted, or at least a good half of them. But if you fall above this range, so a 29 would be even better than a 28. And then the higher you go, if you're at a 36 ACT score in a school with 28 as the top of the mid 50% range, you're probably qualifying for a pretty good merit scholarship. Could easily be a full tuition or a full ride. Even a 34 with this range would most likely qualify. Great question, Heather. Are they using unweighted GPA? Most schools do. I would say about 80% of the schools I look at use the unweighted GPA, and then the rest of them go with weighted. But weighted is so difficult to standardize among different high schools that's why most schools do not use that one. All right, I need to go up to see what this question was. My little chat box is not scrolling. Hold on 1 second. Okay. All right, Carrie wants to know, our school uses a weighted GPA. What is the best way to work out an unweighted GPA? That's a good question. You should be able to get that from admissions though, because they have to know the unweighted in order to calculate the weighted. So hopefully they can easily give you that number. I know with our high school, it was nice that they published both on all the transcripts and everything. Okay, I have a couple more here to look at. It seems that many scholarships have a need component too. How best to identify and weed these out to merit only? Okay, yeah, Peter, that's a great question. There are quite a number of scholarships out there that do have a need-based component. I can tell you one thing, anything that's listed as an automatic merit scholarship does not include need-based aid because it's automatic, usually based only on the ACT and SAT and the GPA. So look for those automatic scholarships. That's really what you want to see first. And then many of the competitive programs, like the bigger full tuition type programs, are only based on merit too. But you may have to look at those scholarship descriptions in order to see if there is a need-based component. There's often not an easy way other than by just looking for those automatics. And the net price calculator. So if this is an important point, most, at least half. So I guess I would still probably go with most colleges do include merit aid now on their net price calculators. That has increased a lot over the last 4 or 5 years since I've been cataloging all those merit scholarships. So that makes it really nice because then you can go out to the net price calculator, even if you know you're not going to qualify for need-based aid. If that net price calculator asks for a GPA and ACT or SAT score, you know that it's going to calculate merit as well, and it will give you an estimation of the merit aid you'll qualify for. So, and then if you put in a really high EFC there too, that completely rules out need-based aid. So you'll definitely know that the numbers it's coming up with are solely based on merit aid. All right, JP. Okay, so you saw my post about what's your student's merit hook. I'm glad you like that. Thank you. Yeah, that's similar to that slide we just showed. Under section number 2, assess your student's ACT, SAT score, you state. For the purposes of institutional merit scholarship estimation, I would say don't use a super scored value. Use the best overall ACT or SAT score your student has from one test date. The only reason to take the SAT again this November is to super score to max chance for merit. All right, so I get what you're saying. Most colleges don't use super scoring. Well, I don't know if most is right, but it's probably about half and half. But sometimes they are not super clear about that, and you have to ask the admissions office whether they do use super scoring. So my recommendation on not using a super scored ACT or SAT score is that you want the best overall estimate of what you're going to qualify for. So by using a non-super scored, you're going to have a better chance of knowing, of estimating that you'll qualify. I guess what I would say to you now is try to find out for each school you're looking at whether they use super scoring or not, and then you'll know which one to estimate your aid based on. But you're always safer with a non-super scored score. All right, let's see. Yeah, you say you found the same thing I did, that the unweighted is also on the transcript. All right, very good. Most say they do super score. Well, that's interesting because most of the schools I have looked at recently do not say one way or the other, or if you dig into the FAQs, they don't. But I'm glad you're finding some that definitely say they do. And you know what, that may become more common as more schools go test optional, because they want to give you a better chance of being able to say you got a higher score. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely, JP. It may be different for merit versus admission. So a lot of them may say we will take super score for admission, but what I do find is sometimes those scholarship requirements are super specific about what they will and won't look at. So you may find that differs. Okay, let's talk about activity resumes. So this week in the challenge emails, I had a link to the activity resume template as well. I always recommend starting an activity resume earlier for your student rather than waiting until senior year, fall of senior year, when they're trying to fill out applications, to go back and remember everything they've done, every honor, every award they've gotten. So you want to try to get ahead of that information early when it's not a stressful application time. Get that all laid out in a good resume format. This template is on my website on the resources page, and it just breaks down the sections. You can put your school activities, work experience, honors and awards, any type of community activities or service, and any other relevant things. So one of the relevant things I have mentioned is if your student goes and takes a summer program at a college to explore a certain major, that would be a good thing to list on there as well. Okay, increasing your students' chances for all sources of merit aid, and we are going to go back. We'll visit the private merit aid and the state merit aid a little bit in a while. So these are really relevant to any of them. Does your student have a hook? So is there something significant your student has done that would qualify them for merit scholarships? That's always a great way. My example of that is my middle daughter did a mural. She decided her senior year of high school, she was very interested in art, in fact studied art education in college, and so her senior year she wanted to replace the mural in our high school gym, and it's like these huge plywood panels, and there were at least 15 of them to cover the space, and she decided on a mural of inspirational figures and their quotes. And so she had to put that whole project together. So it was like project management plus, you know, making it look good and getting volunteers to help and all of that. So when she applied for private scholarships, her senior year of high school, she really focused on the art scholarships. There were several, there were a couple in our town, and then one that was kind of in our whole larger nearby metropolitan area. So she, for all of them, used that mural experience for her essay. So that was really her hook to get those art-related scholarships, because it was definitely relevant to the type of scholarship, and it was something significant that not every student could say they did. So something like that, where it's just something significant that would cause a scholarship committee to say, hey, that student did something really neat. I think that student should get a scholarship. Also, if they're in the top 25% of applicants, we talked about that as far as the test scores and GPA already. Your student needs to be able to craft a good essay and or personal statement, whatever that scholarship asks for. Very important for most of these applications. They need to be able to follow directions to a T. So a scholarship application is not a place where you want to forget something or do something wrong. If it says 500 words, keep it to 500 words. Don't go over, they just might check. Things like that. Proofreading, it's also not a place where you want any typos at all, because, you know, for a lot of these applications, they're looking for ways to eliminate different applications because they have so many. So the ones with the spelling errors or the missing words or anything that looks sloppy are going to go out of the pile first. There is the opportunity to get some professional coaching. So I don't recommend too many other sources for college search related information. I really recommend 3 because I know them personally, and I've experienced their products and I think they're really good. 2 of those that I've listed here: the scholarship system, which is focused on a system for winning private scholarships, and College Essay Guy, who's really there to help you with your student with college essays. They both offer some free training, like free webinars, free YouTube videos. So I'll have some links at the end that you can take a look at, as well as they do have some paid products that you can jump into from there if you need more help. Okay, what if it's not looking like your student has a good merit hook? Well, I always say don't assume that a less than stellar ACT, SAT, or GPA won't be worth merit money. Check into it first. Of the automatic and competitive scholarships in my database that are tied to a minimum GPA, this was last time I ran this last year, these were the statistics. There were 882 scholarships in the database that required an ACT of 22 or less. That is not a high ACT, so there are some out there. 374 required an SAT of 1,000 or less. Again, not a high SAT, not bad though. And there are some out there that those students would qualify for, as well as 577 that required a GPA below 3.0. And I'm only looking at scholarships that do have a minimum for test score and for GPA. Many do not have any minimums. Okay, so let's jump into finding good fit colleges. This is what I call the college fit triangle. basically 3 types of fit: financial, academic, and personal. We will spend most of the time on financial fit because that one is the one I think you need to tackle first. So in my process, and I also have, you may be familiar with my upside down college search process. So that goes beyond merit scholarships and is a somewhat larger look at the overall process of finding colleges, but it's really saying focus on financial first and then narrow down from there. So that's really the way I recommend doing it. When it comes to academic fit, we're looking for having the right majors, right level of selectivity for your student, and potential opportunities for them, like internships, honors programs, study abroad. Any other research is a big one. Anything else that your student is really looking for an academic opportunity. And then personal fit, things like college size, location, housing, transportation, how do they get around the city, how do they get around campus, how big is the campus, and what activities are available to them both on and off campus. So I think you can look for the financial fit colleges and then start narrowing them down based on the things that your student needs academically and the things your student needs to have that personal fit as well. Finding a good financial fit, you need to understand whether you qualify for need-based aid. We've covered that already. And then we want to look for schools that are generous with merit aid for students without need, if you know you're not going to qualify for any need-based aid. Also, those schools where your student will fall in the top 25% of applicants. It's important to know who is getting merit aid and how much. So you can look at statistics on the overall percentage of students who are receiving merit aid, and then get into that percent of students without need receiving merit aid and the average amount of merit aid they receive. So there are a couple free data sources to use that will get you to some of this information. The 2 I recommend would be College Data and College Navigator. College Data I recommend more than College Navigator. We'll get into that. College Data, however, the data is not downloadable. You can try to copy and paste off of their screens, but it's really clunky. Doesn't work well at all. It takes a lot of time just to make sense of what you've copied. College Data does give merit aid statistics for students both with and without need. So that's great to be able to look at. They also provide the mid 50% ACT and SAT ranges at an individual school level. College Navigator does that as well, the mid 50%. College Navigator, you can download a list, but it's not super helpful if you're looking for those merit aid statistics. It will give you the average net price in the download, which is great, but that average, when you see an average net price for a school, that's across all students. So it could be students that qualified for aid, students that didn't qualify for any aid. If it's a state school, it will be in-state students all the way through to out-of-state students, so it's going to be a really skewed number, especially because there are probably a lot more in-state students. So not a super helpful statistic, other than it's somewhat encouraging to see a lower net price average. College Navigator does not give separate statistics for merit aid. Those statistics are lumped together, need-based and merit-based aid. So that is really why I recommend College Data, because you can get those separate merit aid statistics. All right, and in a second, we're going to talk about what I believe is a better option to use. But before we do that, we are going to look at College Data. Hopefully you're familiar with this site. I did include it as part of the 5-day challenge. So this site, interesting thing about this site, you used to be able to get in without logging in. Now it requires a login, and the login doesn't hold if you leave the screen open it times out pretty quickly. So we're going to let it just spin here for a second and fill some info for me. Does net price include both tuition and dorm meal plan? Yes, overall net price does mean like the full price. All right, so here we are on college data. Screen doesn't want to cooperate. All right, so what we would want to do in here is go to Explore Colleges and then College Match. We want to go to Search for Colleges. You can also type in a specific college name to go directly to that school's statistics, but I thought I would show you this functionality to explore different colleges. So you want to scroll down to match by preferences. You can go by region. I usually just do a region search. We're going to just pick the Great Lakes. You can narrow down by a lot: size, public versus private, admissions, entrance difficulty, graduation rate, all these financial friendliness statistics. There are many, many things you can narrow down here, but I like to say start out with a wide search and narrow from there. Merit aid, so you can look at a certain percentage of students without need who are getting merit aid, or overall percentage of students who are getting merit aid. Oops, I put 80% or higher. That is going to narrow our search quite a bit, but let's just leave it there. Curiosity. You've got ethnicity searches, major searches, which may be important if your student is pretty clear on what they want to study, or maybe they want to study one of 5 things. I would narrow to schools that offer all 5 of those majors potentially, because you don't want your student to end up picking a school that doesn't have one of the things that they really want to study, in case that's the one that they do end up wanting to study. So, all right, I did get some schools. So these are schools that said they give 80% or more of the students merit aid overall, not including those who didn't qualify for need-based, just overall, any student getting merit aid. So we're just going to go in so I can show you exactly where to find these statistics. On this first overview page, you can see the mid 50% test score ranges. This is a little slow, probably because I'm eating up all the bandwidth on the online meeting. All right. Okay, so that's just starting to come up here. Qualifications of enrolled freshmen. So here are your middle 50% ranges and your average GPA. That is helpful information. Now, if you go to the Money Matters tab, that's going to tell you more of those statistics that you want to see. All right, so the Money Matters tab is coming up here, gives you all the tuition, room and board, etc. And get this to scroll down here. All right, you are looking for this profile section, profile of 2017-2018 financial aid. So we're going to focus on the freshman section. Financial aid applicants, how many were judged to have financial need, how many received financial aid, that's all good. I want to look at these merit-based statistics. So the first one under average award that's indented, that's of all the financial aid applicants, how many received merit aid. This one that is not indented, this is the students without financial need. So it says 604 freshmen had no financial need and received merit aid in the average amount of $16,447. So knowing that the tuition is around $40,000, then that average was less than half tuition. Still not a bad average for a school, but so that's really where you can find those statistics. But it's going to take you a lot of time to do that school by school. So I have a better recommendation for you. So another one of the 3 products that I do recommend is from DIY College Rankings. My friend Michelle Kretschmar created a more complete tool to be able to find all these statistics, and it contains all of this data listed here and more in a spreadsheet format. So this is just a little sample, but I've got it open here so I can show you what this looks like. This is a somewhat older version I have that I have highlighted. She updates when you purchase it, so it's $42. You get a year of access. She updates it fairly often anytime new information comes along, and you get all those updates for a year. So there is a link to the net price calculator that could be helpful just to get you there quickly when you narrow down colleges. A field that tells you what type of a size this school is, degree of urbanization, how many students, how many full-time undergrads, what's the percentage of part-time undergrads. So is it really more of a commuter type school? How many freshmen are in-state? So you know if it's primarily in-state students. What's the retention rate, freshman retention rate? I like to see a higher retention rate. I am always a little concerned if that's low, because why are all the students leaving? Is the school not keeping them engaged? Are they finding it too hard? What's the deal? 4-year graduation rate. They have some other 5- and 6-year graduation rates. I like the 4-year because I really want my students to get in and out in 4 years. So general rule of thumb is to try to look at schools with a 50% or higher graduation rate for 4 years. What's the percentage of admitted applicants? That's another good one. And then here you get into your SAT and ACT mid 50% ranges. And so that you can easily use. I'll show you in just a second how I like to use those. Over here in this pinkish section, we've got some of the good financial data we want to look at. Here is the average high school GPA of freshmen, so you know how your student compares. Percentage of freshmen without need, the percentage of freshmen without need who are receiving merit aid, and the average merit award they are receiving. So all of those statistics you just saw on a college by college basis on the college data site are right here listed out with all the schools directly together. So the way I like to use this is, let's say our example student had a 28 GPA, that's what it was in the, or not GPA, 28 ACT, yeah, that's what it was in the slide deck. What I would do is take out all the top of the 50% range that's above. So if they're a 28, I probably want to look at schools where the mid 50 is, let's go with a 27 or less. So I am eliminating the schools where my student will not fall above the mid 50% range. Okay, so that's my first step. My second step, if I know that I don't qualify for need-based aid, or I really don't expect to, then I'm going to look for those schools that are the most generous with merit aid. So I want to sort this column here from largest to smallest so that I can see those schools that have the most merit aid to give. So I can see at the very top I have quite a few that are 100% of students without need receiving merit aid. I can look at those amounts. There are the cost categories over on the right. So what I recommend is to hide a bunch of columns so that you can bring the tuition, yearly tuition column right over here so you can compare this average amount to the yearly tuition amount. So this is a huge time saver. I did not find Michelle early enough. It was after my oldest daughter was through the process, and I thought, oh my gosh, if I had known this tool was available, I would have saved so much time. So I definitely recommend it. It is $42, like I said. Michelle and I are affiliates for each other, meaning we recommend each other's products to our audiences because we've worked together in the past and we believe in each other's products. So I have a link to be able to offer her product through my site. It's at mykidscollegechoice.com/DIY spreadsheet. That will take you right to the page where you can purchase that. And I think it's on the last slide as well here. So, all right, we're running a little long tonight. Finding good fit merit scholarships is the next piece. Hopefully you can stick with me. And it is, if you go to mykidscollegechoice.com/DIY spreadsheet, it will take you right there. It's the DIY college ranking site. The types of institutional merit scholarships, we already covered this a little bit, but just to recap, we have automatic scholarships. Those are the ones where if your student has a specific GPA and test score, they will qualify for a scholarship guaranteed. Competitive that's really a broad category. Anything where it's not a guaranteed scholarship is really competitive. Some of these have scholarship competitions, on-campus competitions, or just we're going to judge everybody's essays against each other. You know, it varies widely. The talent scholarships we talked about, dance, music, art, and theater are the biggest ones. Those are going to be based mostly on auditions and or portfolios, depending on which it is. And then the national merit, national achievement is not offered to new students anymore, but the Hispanic recognition is. So a few things to keep in mind about automatic scholarships. There are some that are for valedictorian and salutatorian scholars. So any valedictorian or salutatorian is eligible for a scholarship at some colleges. You just really have to look for those. I do have on that full scholarship list that I talked about at the very beginning, my listing of full ride and full tuition scholarships. I have those valedictorian, salutatorian scholarships called out as a separate category. So if you know your student is going to be first or second in class, I would definitely check out what schools offer full tuition or full ride scholarships to those top students. But as we talked about before, automatic scholarships are not just for the top students based on those statistics I shared with you. These are often shown in a table or a grid on the school's website. And many of these are included in schools' net price calculators like we talked about. But you can search directly for automatic scholarships if you're only interested in the automatics on the merit scholarship list site. Competitive scholarships, these may or may not require a separate application. Talked about there may be a competition. The school may tell you how many scholarships are given out, or they may not disclose that at all. Some schools just are very vague about that. The amounts may or may not be listed on the school's website. Some colleges just don't tell you what the amounts are, even though you know that your student can compete for scholarships. Very frustrating, though, when you can't estimate that. And all private scholarships would fall into the competitive category. So talent scholarships we talked about Most of these that I have found are variable amounts instead of just a published amount. But there are even some full ride and full tuition talent scholarships out there. Those are the best ones, and you know, it varies widely in the amounts that the schools are offering. Most of these require that the student majors in that area of talent, but there are definitely some that don't require the major. Okay, and then the National Merit in Hispanic Recognition. Hopefully you're familiar with that. It's based on the PSAT test results from junior year. With National Merit, the best scholarships go to finalists, really good ones also for semifinalists, and some schools give scholarships to the commended students as well. So when you're a finalist, in order to get the scholarship, you usually have to list the school as the top choice through the National Merit competition. So if you've already put a school out there and you happen to come upon another school that has a really great offer, maybe a full ride, and it's not the one you already listed, that's not going to allow you to get that scholarship. And there are over 300 scholarships in this category currently in the database, although we're doing a full database overhaul and reloading all the data to get fresh data. So there may be more this next time around. All right, so how do you find a good fit merit scholarship? Well, you can look, as we talked about in the last section, at those generous schools, or you can look at the schools offering the best listed scholarships. I say it really requires a combination of both, because you want to be covered by knowing that you're applying to some generous schools, but you also want to find specific scholarships your student will qualify for that they can be looking at as well. So it's kind of like covering two sides of the coin. As we talked about already, you can look up schools that you narrowed in on. We went through the steps, in step 4, we went through, in step 3, we went through and identified those good fit schools. So then you could go from there and look up the merit scholarships offered by those schools. But there are probably other schools out there that have great merit scholarships your student will qualify for that you didn't already identify. So that's really where I say go look for the schools. That's primarily why I created the merit scholarship list site, so that you could just go out and see, hey, where are the schools that my student would qualify for great merit scholarships at. So they may be schools you've never heard of, or never maybe heard of but didn't consider. So before we get into step 5, I want to just give you a quick peek at how we do the search. And looks like I have somebody else to admit here. All right, so here's the Merit Scholarship List site and the search functionality. So you can search by state. We're in the advanced search. That really gives you the best way to search for different types of scholarships. You can pick several states. I'm just going to pick a few for our example. It will work for international students. If you're an international student, it's going to only look for scholarships that are open to international students. What state do you live in? This is for consideration of in-state scholarships versus out-of-state scholarships. And are you interested in both public and private schools? What types of amounts do you want to look at? I always recommend starting with the higher amounts, like half tuition and more. So these are exclusive categories though. So if it's in the half tuition or more, it is not in the full tuition. And if it's in the full tuition, it's not in the full ride, meaning these are only full rides. These are only or up to full ride amounts. up to full tuition amounts, and then this one is half tuition or more going up to a full tuition amount. You can look at both automatic and competitive, or say, I only want to see the automatics. That's what my student really wants to look at. Just take all three of these. The out-of-state tuition waiver category is an interesting one because that will identify those state schools that are going to waive the out-of-state portion of tuition based on your statistics. So usually GPA and test score, or just GPA. You can look for the talent scholarships and also the national merit or Hispanic recognition. If you'll qualify for those, it will search for those. Now, you must enter a GPA to search for scholarships, but you don't necessarily have to enter an SAT or ACT score, because we know that the younger students will probably not have taken the test yet. Let's put a 28 in there again, and then we search, and we're going to, it's first going to identify colleges for us, and then we can pick the scholarships. We can pick the colleges that we want to look at scholarships. All right, so it is showing me 45 schools. I searched, it shows me right here what I searched: Arizona, California, and Colorado, and these three categories, and this was the GPA and ACT I entered. So what I could do is look at the mid 50% range to see which of these schools am I interested in seeing more from. So my student had a 28. I don't know if I'd be interested in a school with an 18 to 22 range. I might be worried about the level of academic rigor there. But definitely a 22 to 27 would be good. 24 might be okay, up to a 24. 26, we'll just pick a few here. Harvey Mudd with a 32 to 35, no. My chances of merit aid or even getting in with a 28 is probably pretty low, so we're going to skip that. And let's pick this one. We'll just leave it at those. So then I say search checked results, and it's going to show me all the scholarships available at those schools. I believe I chose 4. All right, so here are the scholarships. Not a lot since I only chose 4 schools, but I can go in and look at these further. Like I might say, oh, what is this half tuition scholarship at California Lutheran? Let's see what it is. So if I click on that link in the name field, it will take me in to see all the details. This one is telling me it's specific to members of congregations, ELCA congregations in Orange County, California. So this full overhaul of the data we're doing right now would have given me a chance to eliminate this because it's area specific. So I would have known, oh, I don't even want to look at that college because I don't live in Orange County, California. So that is coming in the upcoming release. All right, but you can see that generally you're going to see all the information about the scholarship. You have a link to the website to go check out the full details. You also have all the information about the school, including down here it tells you the percentage of degree-seeking freshmen without need who received merit aid at this school and what is the average amount. Okay, so that is just a quick look at what data is available out here on the Merit Scholarship List site. Any questions on that? Just type answer to someone there. We are almost done. Hang in there with me. We have one step to go, which is about private scholarships. All right. So things to know about private scholarships. There are large national and international type scholarships that are extremely competitive. Your student will have a low possibility of winning those, but if you have a lot of, if your student has a lot of time to create a lot of different scholarship applications, there is definitely a law of averages within scholarships. So the more you apply for it, the more likely you are to win one. So it really depends on the time and the amount of effort you want to put in. Definitely a time investment. Local scholarships, as we talked about earlier, are the easiest to win, hands down by far, because your competition is so much lower, and if your student is a top student in your school, they will most likely have some scholarship money available to them through those private organizations. Often these are only one-time awards for private scholarships and are not renewable. Also, there are private scholarships out there for current college students. I said at the very beginning, 2 of my daughters both won private scholarships while in school. The oldest actually won the same one, I believe it was 3 years in a row. So, and that was through our local Rotary Club. So definitely some opportunities out there for existing college students. You just have to look a little harder to find those. And just like I said, the student may be able to reapply for the same scholarship each year, which is nice. Carrie, how often is the list updated? The Merit Scholarship List site is updated fully once a year. So right now we are in the middle of that full, complete update to catch all the data changes for the next school year. Because, you know, now that those 2019 students are starting school, the 2020 applicants are coming along and they're looking for all that data. So most of the schools are pretty good about updating their data by this time in the year. There are a few out there who don't. I mean, even into like January, there may be some schools where when I go out to their sites, they're still advertising 2019 merit scholarships. So we definitely keep an eye on those though and try to do some searches for broken links throughout the year so that we can do some incremental updates, but it's all full, complete data. The set of data that's out there right now is about 12,000 individual scholarships. We're not all the way through the update, and we're already at close to 20,000 scholarships because we were able to break more out this year. So, I mean, it's a lot of data to update. So, definitely worth it though to keep the most current listings in front of you. How do we find private merit aid? So I would always say start with your high school counseling office because they often maintain a list of the private scholarships, local especially, that their students will qualify for. Local newspapers are also a good source. They not only have those press releases when a scholarship is available to apply to, but they also do press releases when students win scholarships. So that was something I always tried to keep track of. Oh, all right, so I know that in this month, this organization released their winners. So that means I need to be watching a few months ahead of that next year for those scholarships. Recommendations on where to search for private scholarships for students that are in college, Dawn asks. Yes, Dawn, so start with the school itself, start with your student's college, especially the program that they're majoring in, because they often have some scholarships for existing students. Really explore through the college first. Then beyond that, I would go to the sites. So the 2 big sites I recommended here are CapEx and JLV College Counseling. So a little difference on what you're going to find on each. CapEx is one of those sites that has everything. They have college searches, they have scholarship searches. They have everything. But the nice thing about their scholarship search is they list out how competitive the scholarship is going to be. And they also list out how time consuming the application will be. So that's great information to know, whereas some of the other sites like FastWeb and Unigo don't have that. So I find that to be very helpful information. JLV College Counseling is more of a niche site. They list a lot of the smaller, lesser known scholarships, but I love their listings. I post every time they come up with a new month worth, or every week they have Scholarship Saturday. I post those in the Upside Down College Search Facebook group, and not the Merit Scholarship group, but I should probably start posting them there as well. There's a lot of crossover between those two groups. Organizations, websites like Rotary, Lions Club, any of those type of things. Women's Club. Google searches are a great way to find scholarships. Scholarships for tall people, that works. I've tried that one. Scholarships for women in engineering, or something, some combination of those words like that will work really well. Pretty much anything you can think of, search for it and you'll come up with some scholarship opportunities. All right, Tracy, do you know of a list that shares what schools do not stack scholarships? Maybe the term is scholarship displacement. Yeah, scholarship displacement is where your need-based aid from the college is going to get displaced by any private scholarships you win. Definitely an important thing to look at if you're qualifying for need-based aid. If you're not qualifying for need-based aid, you don't need to worry about this at all. So I started a listing several months ago. What I most likely should do, what I should do is put it in the Merit Scholarship Deep Dive Facebook group and let the group crowdsource it, because I put in a few dozen schools on there, but it's extremely time consuming to research each college and to find that displacement information. You know, what do they do? If they award you need-based aid and you also get private scholarships, what does that college do? What are they going to let you keep? Most schools will do what I would consider to be the right thing, which is lop off the loan portion of your financial package from the college and let you use your private scholarship in place of that loan. Since they're not going to stack it all, just get rid of the loan, let me have the private, and don't touch my free need-based aid. But there are schools that will displace some of that free need-based aid because you got a private scholarship. All right. So just a few examples here on the screen about different private scholarships. You know, they range from these huge programs like STAMPS, which actually is partnered through colleges. So I list them as college scholarships as well in the database. Something like Coca-Cola Scholars, which has a huge audience that, you know, super competitive with some pretty good scholarship money for those who can win it. And then, of course, the local scholarships through the organizations I listed here and many more. Things to know about state merit scholarships. So I wanted to touch on these because you may live in a state that's generous with merit aid. These can vary from hundreds of dollars up through a full ride. It's often dependent on state budgets, so sometimes states cut out these merit scholarships as one of the first things they cut when they need to cut something. These may have a component that is matched by the college. There are a lot of those where the state gives, say, $2,000, and if you win that $2,000 through the state, the college will also match it with an extra $2,000. I see that a fair amount in the database. State scholarships may require FAFSA filing, even if it's based on merit, when it's kind of coming through the state, but also through the college. That is fairly typical. How do you find state merit aids? So you can look for your state's website. This website that I listed here called NASFA is a great place to start. They have a map. You click on your state, you can find that website that lists all of those. All right, and you may find them on the college's website also, especially through the public universities, but sometimes the privates also list these. Okay, so last topic to talk to you about. You saw the Merit Scholarship List site when I demoed it just a little bit. We are relaunching the site because of that full data overhaul, which we do yearly, but in addition to that, we're doing a lot of really exciting things this time around, so that's why I consider it a full relaunch. So some of the changes that are coming are to be able to search for scholarships for specific majors. Right now, they're just lumped in with all the other scholarships, and so this time, I'm breaking those out so you can say, I want to search for scholarships for engineering or for education or whatever it is, and it will pull up just those major specific scholarships. Also minority scholarships. So those, again, we're just in with all the other data, and now I am breaking out minority scholarships so you can search those separately as well. We're adding the scholarship deadline date if there is one. There isn't always. Sometimes it just goes along with the college application date. We're also adding criteria on whether there's a separate application and what is required for that scholarship application. Is an essay required? Is an interview required? That sort of thing. So when you go in to search for the scholarships today, it will tell you if that scholarship has a minimum GPA and a minimum ACT or SAT score. Those are only listed when those are required by the school. Sometimes the school makes recommendations. They say there is no requirement, but typically students have this GPA and this ACT, SAT. So now those will be listed as well as all the other scholarships that don't have those requirements will have recommendations. So I have put together recommendations based on the statistics for the school that will tell you if your student is above this level, they have a greater chance for that scholarship. So not only are you seeing the ones that have specific requirements, you're also getting recommendations on what we think it will take to win that scholarship if it doesn't have requirements. So another really helpful thing when you're searching. Also, we are breaking out all kinds of separate entries when there are GPA and ACT or SAT requirements. So many of them in the past had ranges where it was like $5,000 up to $20,000. Well, that's not super helpful. So we've been able to go in and go through those net price calculators and actually identify the exact minimums needed for each dollar value. So that's been really helpful, and we will be able to then give you the opportunity to search and find a lot more matches than you could today. So when is this all taking place? We are relaunching Merit Scholarship List site on Monday, September 16th. All those new features will go live that day, and the updated data will all go live that day. So this is going to give you a much better way to search and match your student's GPA and ACT or SAT score to those minimum requirements or those recommendations. All right, so for this relaunch, we're doing a special between now and then that it's still at the $75 one-year access rate until September 16th, and it goes up to $99 because of all the new data and all the new ways to search. So it's definitely a higher value, but you get that higher value for the same price if you sign up before the launch date and if you sign up through through that launch date, you will get a free copy of the full scholarship list. That's the full ride, full tuition scholarship spreadsheet I talked about. So it's really a subset of the overall data that's in there that's really just focused on those full ride and full tuition merit scholarships, but it's in a spreadsheet format so you can sort and filter and you can have that with you rather than having it on a website that you have to access. Additionally, you will get 2 30-minute office hour sessions with me. So what those will be is like a Zoom meeting where you can come and ask questions. We'll leave the microphones on, and everyone can ask questions about using the Merit Scholarship List site to search for scholarships for your students. So any of those related topics we can cover in those sessions. Okay, question from Tracy. Wait, no, I already answered that one. All right. I think I have covered the questions. All right, I want to thank you so much for sticking with me tonight. We went half an hour over, so you got an hour and a half of training. Hopefully I was able to answer your questions. Here is a recap of the free tools that we covered. I will send this out in the follow-up email as well, so you have all the links that we talked about in the presentation. And if you have any last questions, please go ahead and ask me now. Thank you, Dawn. I really appreciate your feedback. I hope it was helpful to you. All right. Thank you, Heather. Yeah, I try. So I'm really in this to help other parents get through this process because it can be very daunting and it can be overwhelming at times. So I really hope that I can provide some value to you. I will send out the follow-up email with the links and information and the recording in case you missed part of the presentation or just really want to cover something again. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me, Wendy, at mykidscollegechoice.com, or inside the Merit Scholarship Deep Dive Facebook group works as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great night.